Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abbey, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abbey,
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abby podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. She sells seashells by the seashore. How many chucks? Wait, what is it? How many chucks would a woodchuck wood? Wait, how many woods? Wait, everyone shut up. How many chucks? Wait, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Sometimes it just takes you a second to get there. Okay, moving on. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Abby. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you are having a wonderful, beautiful, sunny, or maybe not sunny week. Sometimes I don't really want the sun and I just want rain and melancholy vibes. Not because I'm sad, just because sometimes it makes me feel better. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited for today's episode. We're going to do a normal episode. We're going to do dubs and L's and the details, main topic, and then we're going to do a Dear Abby. That's actually a lot of different segment things within one episode. Today's main topic is just about self-love, and also I think a lot of reminders about how to do that, because we can say you got to love yourself, but what does that actually look like? How can we feel it, like really feel it, especially if we have a lot of layers of self-loathing or thoughts and feelings of this? So how do we actually implement that? And I'm not an expert on this. Of course, I'm not a therapist, not a professional. This is just my own 2 cents, things that I've experienced and learned from. So I wanted to talk about that and break that down a little bit with just certain things that might help rewire your brain a bit and to practice and to feel that love for yourself a little bit more. And I'm sharing this as someone who very much still struggles with this and has to constantly check myself before I wreck myself, because that is just like a tendency when you've been doing something or treating yourself a certain way for a long time. It's kind of hard to stay the course of doing something totally different. And different. Is it worth it? Yes. Is sometimes self-love, and that sounds like a really abstract idea, but it is easier to understand when it's broken down and what that actually looks like and how that can actually feel. It's worth it. And it's also sometimes easy to do and sometimes hard to do. Sometimes it's easy for like years. Sometimes it's hard for years. Sometimes it's easy for a month, hard for another month. It's just life is a little bit up and down, and that's also okay. So that's what we're talking about today. But first, let's do dubs and L's, of course. I was thinking about when I first started my podcast and we did games at the end, and that was fun. I should do that again. But how? How should I do that? I probably won't get any answers to this because, no problem. Hey, no problem. You don't want to give me any feedback? No problem. But I'm curious what if you guys would be interested in a Patreon where it's a new type of an episode and it's more fun versus self-reflection, that stuff, and we'd have another co-host. It's something I really want to do, and I think it would be fun. So I'm probably going to do it anyways, but I'm curious if you could give any feedback and if that would be something you'd want to see. It would just be more fun topics, and it would just be me and somebody else that I'm very close to shooting the bullet. Wait, I don't know how to say that. Just goofing around, basically. Those are the plans, but it'll be a surprise. Do you like surprises? I don't know if you guys have seen that video. It's like of a kid, and he's the funniest kid ever. Anyways, she's funny. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Do you like surprises? My dub for this week is the Valley Girl, What We Said drink is back at Microdose. And again, not an ad. I did this last time they promoted this. Not an ad, but genuinely it is one of my favorites. But I do get it half sweet because it's very, very sweet. And it kind of makes me feel sick if I drink too much of it without food. I feel this is not a very good promo, but Just get half sweet if you don't like super sweet things during the day. Give me sweet things at night because then I don't have to feel it. I sleep on it and I probably feel horrible in my sleep, probably get less good quality sleep, but I don't feel the, highs and lows of the sugar rush when I eat at night and I go to sleep. But that's a dub because that drink is really good and it feels like summer when I drink it. I don't know if they just keep it for summers, if that's the vibe now, but it's back and I'm very excited and I'm very happy. Again, it's at Microdose in Orange County. I don't know if there's other ones. I have genuinely no idea. I've done zero research as to where that is, but it's good here. Another dub is this week I've felt like my core has gotten stronger. I feel like a lot of my dubs and L's have to do with my physicality and trying to move my body. So thank you for always listening to these. This is what I'm celebrating myself for. I do a lot of core workouts. I do it multiple times a week. I don't overdo it. I'm very careful because sometimes I have a tendency to push it a little bit too hard and then I don't get a hernia. It's like, I think it's like an abdomen tear and it's not that intense, but it's like I do something to where it feels like a hernia, but it's not, but it's in the similar area, but it happened to someone that I know and it's a very similar feeling. So I'm guessing that's what happens to me, but it's when I push my core too hard or when I'm not balancing, when I'm not actually engaging, like what do they call it? Your transverse abdominis, when I'm not actually doing core work with that and I'm using my back or using something else. So actually learning how to work out using your core, there's something weirdly empowering about that. And I think being a woman, I've never felt strong with my arms. I can do 0 push-ups still. I could probably do 1. I think I can do 1 or 2. And that's me like really going 1000% effort doing 2 push-ups in a row. But nothing makes me feel more weak than when I try to do push-ups and pull-ups. I have strong legs. Like I can do leg workouts for days. I'm great at cycling now. I have good cardio, legs, leg strength, glute strength. But the second it's anything to do with my upper back and my arms, I feel so weak. And that's okay because I'm used to it. But also with your core, I think when you are thinking of eventually wanting children, I know some people might say like, well, that's all gonna go to waste when you have kids and your core expands or whatever happens. But I think I just want to get into a habit of training well so that way I feel strong. I feel like that helps during childbirth. Do I know the facts about that? No, it's just an instinct. It's an instinctual belief. So I have no facts to back that up. I think it also just helps with my breathing. Like breathing more deeply versus just in my chest. Anyways, long dub. My L for this week is probably my eyesight has really declined and I've been really anxious about my eyes. Working on a computer all day, looking at my phone, looking at when I play video games, like a lot of stuff is on a screen and I kind of hate that. But I just got oh my gosh, that scared me. I got a message on my Discord from, I actually don't even know who this is. I think my brother's playing with somebody on Discord. I don't know what they're playing. I kind of want to see what they're playing. What are they playing without me? Also, why are they playing without me? Actually, they never invite me to play. Anyways, the message just said, I can hear you. And it popped. The other messages didn't pop up. For some reason, that one did. That gave me a heart attack. My heart sank. I'm like, what do you mean? Everyone can just hear me podcasting right now? That's so embarrassing. I mean, sure, I post it, but it's embarrassing if you're listening to me during. I'm like pouring my heart out. Well, sometimes I do. Okay, I don't know. They're playing some board game online. Not interested in that. I do like board games, just not online board games. That's something I don't think I could ever get myself into. But I could be wrong. Well, that's my L for this week, honestly. When people get on Apex or they get on video games and they don't think to invite you and you see them playing and you look through your messages saying, they probably did send me a message, right? Like saying, hey, you want to get on? And then they don't. Actually, there's a lot of people that do invite me. There are people that do invite me and it's always at times that I can't. But so I understand. Just not with your siblings, you know? When I see my siblings play and I don't get a message, I'm like, what the? But to sum it up, My eyes are strained and I have glasses. I got glasses for my thing that happens with my eyes where it's like my left eye has like a whatever stigmatism where it can't like keeps zooming back and forth and I'm looking at something close up. So I'm supposed to wear my glasses all the time and I try to, but sometimes they just it bugs me having them on. So I don't always wear them when I'm on a screen or when I'm doing things close up, but I probably should. But even if I do, sometimes I feel like my eyes just get strained from the light, and also I don't have sunglasses, and also for some weird reason I've like procrastinated buying sunglasses, but I go to the beach all the time. There's like a debate of whether you should wear sunglasses or not. I'm a big believer in sunglasses now because I tried that and my eyes genuinely get sunburned, and I'm scared it's going to make me go blind because I feel like it can, because I think it can. So I'm trying to be very intentional about my eyes and where I look, how long I look at things. So that's my L. But I have been genuinely like having health anxiety a little bit about that. I wouldn't go far as, I wouldn't really say it's OCD, but I think it's just general anxiety, more physical anxiety about it. So I'm trying to manage that and keep it within wraps and just accept any damage I've already done, can't really go back, and just be responsible and disciplined moving forward. Okay. Now let's go into the details. Something that there's a specific sweetness in life when you find a community, group of people. It's an online community maybe, or you just find people around you that make you feel like you belong, and you feel all of this social anxiety or just not feeling understood. All of that kind of melts away. And when you find those people, it's worth the wait. Maybe it took you 50 years to find those people. It's worth the wait because there is such a sweetness in feeling understood, and not like fully. I don't know if anyone I've ever met has fully understood everything about me. One of the only people that's pretty close maybe is like my mom or my dad, but even then and I think that's just because they've seen me grow up. They know me. Like, they know me very, very well. You know, they took care of me for 18 years. So they know me and they understand me. But even certain hobbies, like interests, things that you like to do that maybe the people around you don't understand or might even be bugged by it. The feeling of when you are in a community of people and you find people that love something as much as you do, there's really nothing quite like it. And there's a settling that happens within when you find that group of people. And there's also a longing for that when you don't have that. I definitely struggle with finding that. I think I kind of always have felt that, but I also don't want to say it's just everyone else's fault, because I have a hard time, because I don't sometimes find the courage to go into different and new settings to find those people, because I'm scared of rejection, but you never know unless you try. So it's something I think in my 20s and in my 30s, as I'm getting closer to 30, I want to keep looking for. And I was thinking about this because I can be very sensitive to criticism, or even just if here's a specific example. If I'm singing really loudly and I have my headphones on and I'm singing loudly, I'm like probably trying to opera sing, or I'm singing some song that's really fun to sing and I really like singing and I want to, and I'm having fun, I'm feeling free, and then someone tells me like, hey, you're singing too loud, can you stop singing? Or like, hey, you got to stop singing that loud, or like, hey, you got to bring it down. The phrase bring it down, to me, I don't know why it feels so hurtful, but it does. And it's not that person's fault, because they could be trying to focus on something. Like, the world doesn't revolve around me and exactly what I want to do in every moment. And at the same time, I do feel hurt by that, and I feel very rejected. It's something that my husband probably has to deal with all the time, where I kind of cave in and I have to communicate that it's not his fault. I can be really sensitive to like that kind of feedback or requests. And even if it's done in a nice way, it like takes me a second to recognize they're not telling me they hate me and that I'm stupid and I have a stupid voice and I need to shut my mouth forever. But that's how it feels. You know, the voices, the interpretation, that's what it is. And that's not fair to somebody else, but also it feels heavy to me. I don't even know why. But I do know there's a lot of people like that, like other people that feel really sensitive to criticism or sensitive to feedback in that way. And you take it personal and it can be taken very personal. And I think there's things to work on within that. And especially if there's a dynamic of that, trying to maybe request that someone asks nicer, or I don't know. Sometimes we just have to be like, yeah, that felt like a rejection, but I was not really rejected, but I'm going to sit with this feeling for a second because there's nothing wrong with it. But if I ignore it, it's probably going to get worse and I am going to get mad. Then I am really, truly going to shut down. But I digress. The point is, it's all about the environment for things that you love. Yes, it would be awesome if in every moment, anywhere, you could be your full expression of yourself and talk about all the things that you like, if it's like nerdy and nerd out to all the things that you like, or be really loud with singing. But sometimes like the environment and where you are, it's just not the time and the place. But going into what I mentioned before, like finding your people, finding a community, going back to my example of singing, and then somebody like, hey, can you bring it down a little bit? Like you're singing kind of loud. And I'm like, oh man, I need to shut up. But if I'm auditioning for something, or if I'm in a room where it's meant for acoustics and it's also with people that love theater and we're all trying to sing something, you can belt it, you can be loud, and that's welcomed there. And that's like what people want from you in a certain environment, in a certain setting. So the setting does matter for some of the things that you really want to express yourself on, because again, not everybody's going to understand, and it's maybe just not the time and the place to give that full expression. I don't know if that's like a bad take to have, but I'm not someone, that's just my personality, is I'm not someone that expects that I should be able to do everything I want wherever I want and disturb whoever I want. I think another thing is growing up, sometimes, I think all of us growing up, there's probably been something that we like, that we get excited about, that maybe somebody has made us feel stupid for it, or they've made us feel childish for it, or they made us feel embarrassed that we love something so much. And that also that also does not feel great. But that thing that you love, the thing that you're excited about, there's 8 billion people in this world. You can always find people who like and who love the same thing as you and understand it. Of course, there's a longing for, again, that community, somebody that understands why you love something so much, and you can do it together and you don't feel judged for it or misunderstood by it. You just feel like, okay, now I can fully express myself. But of course, we do not need somebody to tell us that our hobbies and what we like is okay. Like that needs to come from within. I guess when I feel like maybe misunderstood or something that I like is silly to other people, there's a part of me that's totally okay with nobody understanding, and then B, there is that longing part that is excited when they do find a community of people and I'm in a setting where that nerdiness about something is more than welcome. But that is what I was thinking about in the details. Time to move on to the main topic of today's episode, which is self-love. Self-love, which is, again, a very broad topic and something that feels very abstract when it's just self-love. It's kind of hard to understand. Like, obviously we know what love is, but it's also something that can't fully be explained, you know? It just is. Of course you can try to explain it, but for me, it's hard to explain it, so it just is. But self-love is something that you can grasp what that means. Obviously, it's loving yourself, but we get to figure out what that is for ourselves and how that feels, what that looks like. But to break it down is kind of what I wanted to do, to give some ideas, especially coming from a background with struggles mentally, like any kind of mental battles that we all have. Something I used to say to myself when I would have an intrusive thought or an intrusive image or feeling, whatever it was, when I was distressed, I would say the phrase, I hate myself, in my head over and over and over and over and over again. There's a point probably where I said that like 1,000 times to myself every single day. And there was a little bit of meaning behind it. Like there was a hateful, like a loathing feeling that came with that thought. But also I said it almost ritually to get bad thoughts out of my head, or just to almost like reassure myself that I hate myself, that if I was this monster that my brain is telling me I am, or my OCD is telling me that I am, I hate it and I hate myself for it. And that was just kind of normal for me. That's just what it sounds really depressing. It's very sad, but I do think a lot of people have, when they have OCD or something similar, like mental battles, I think that is very common, that they maybe not say that exact phrase, but I have heard people say that that's something that they say. But it's a similar, like, you kind of almost reinstill that you don't like yourself over and over again, because it's scary, because your OCD or your depression or whatever it is can make you feel not like yourself, and also can make you scared that you're going to be a monster if you start to accept and love yourself. Because if you accept yourself, immediately your brain can go to, well, then I'm accepting that I'm a horrible monster person. Like, I'm accepting that I am violent, if your fear is being violent, or like harm OCD. Or if it's any kind of sexual themed OCD, that's something that can feel really icky to like accept yourself about. But something important to remember within recovery is, when you accept something, you're not accepting that that's necessarily true, but you're accepting the reality of the experience that you're having. For example, if you struggle with sexual intrusive thoughts of things you actually don't want to do, but you're getting these thoughts and it's getting really distressing, you don't know how to approach it. So you might start saying, I hate myself, or you might just reinstill this self-loathing feeling or thoughts, whatever that may be, to make yourself feel almost better that, oh, phew, I still don't like myself. So as long as I'm having these thoughts and I'm telling myself that I don't like myself, then we're good to go. Like, then I'm probably not going to become the monster because I'll be too depressed, or, what, I don't know what the reasoning would be, but it feels like a protective mechanism almost. Oh, crap. I lost my train of thought. Give me a second. Full thought, immediately gone in the middle of the thought. When you forget your train of thought, it's like someone just selected all on a Word document you've been typing and just deleted it. And you're like, oh, I don't know what I just said, but I guess I'm gonna have to restart. So anyway, and it's hard to change that because it's really scary, because what if I do become this monster? And there's a lot of fears and distress that come with the idea of even acceptance. But the acceptance is that you're having distressing, intrusive thoughts about A, B, and C. And also that you struggle with OCD, or you struggle with depression, or you struggle with anxiety, fill in the blank. That is what you're accepting. You're accepting the reality of the thoughts that are happening, everything that's happening. You're accepting the reality of it. It's, again, I think it's just another way of just being brutally honest about what's happening. It can be a really tricky concept. I know it was for me when I was in the depths of it. Was even talking about acceptance like freaked me out, because I didn't know, like, I didn't want to accept that I was a monster, but that's not what necessarily that's not what you're accepting. But it is like it's kind of like a jump of, I'm gonna accept whatever I am. Even that makes you want to, well, I want to make sure I'm not this, but for your brain's sake, it's really just a full acceptance, and you don't have to give disclaimers, because I think that's part of OCD's cycle. It keeps you stuck in this war in your head, versus if you kind of take that leap of faith and you have full unconditional acceptance of your experience and of also risk. So the risk of life, there's always a risk. Maybe it is true and you don't want to even think about that. But that's part of recovery, is accepting maybe not, and that's very, very hard to do within recovery. But that's essentially what from my understanding and the therapy that I did with ERP and everything, like ACT and stuff, is that's kind of the gist of it, is you're wanting to sit with the scary feelings and thoughts that come with maybe not, and the risk of the reality of life. Going back to loving yourself, if this is something you struggle with, especially with OCD, but really with any kind of mental battle, is just this feeling of self-loathing, and then you have a habit of pushing yourself down even more just to make yourself feel almost better, because and it might just be a habit that you have, it stems from maybe there's a lot of work that needs to be done and processing of past experiences, how that's affecting how you live your life, the habits that you have, the outlook that you have. Like if addressing any limiting beliefs that don't even allow you to even think about loving yourself or accepting yourself or accepting life, accepting others. All this being said, something that really helped me was when I would have the thoughts like I hate myself, or when I'd have, it's more like a feeling of just like bleh, and a deep sadness and frustration almost, and it feels like it's towards myself. I have to remember that I don't hate myself. Really, you don't hate yourself. Whether you feel like it or not, you hate an experience that you're having. You don't loathe yourself. You loathe OCD and what it does to you. You don't like what OCD does. You don't like what depression does. You don't like what these disorders and these really hard mental battles, you don't like that. That's what you don't like. You don't like the way that it holds you back. You don't like the way that it keeps you stuck, that keeps you scared. That's what you don't like. But yourself, you're not just OCD. You're not just depressed. That's not all you are. So for me, it was really helpful to distinguish and just to believe that I don't actually hate myself. And that felt true when I kind of peeled back some layers. I just hate what OCD sometimes does to me. I hate the way that it treats me. I hate the way that it keeps me from living my life, that it keeps me from loving, from being loved. That's what I hate. I don't actually really hate myself. So even if I'm repeating, I hate myself over intrusive thoughts, I started to stop reassuring myself and stop pushing myself down, because that was making me worse, and that was making me less courageous to stand up to my OCD, and also was making me really annoyed with other people. You know, if I hate myself, it's really hard for me to love other people. Like that was really that they kind of all felt the same to me. So it might be helpful to hear and just to be reminded that you don't really hate yourself. You hate your OCD. You hate your depression. You hate this thing that's keeping you stuck, pushing you down. But that being said, you have the strength within. Once you pull back those layers and you believe in yourself, thoughts like I hate myself, or really self-destructive thought and thought patterns, especially thought patterns, like thoughts are going to happen. Obviously, you can't control your thoughts. You can't also really control your feelings. So your thoughts and feelings of I hate myself, or the feeling of self-loathing or disgust, it doesn't have to all be pointed towards you and yourself. You're feeling it. You feel that, but doesn't necessarily mean it's directed towards yourself, if that makes sense. And I see a lot of depictions of this where the thing that you're running from, like the scary feelings, the big feelings that you're running from, especially with a feeling of self-loathing, that doesn't need more running away from. That doesn't need more self-hatred fed into that. That doesn't mean that because now you feel like you hate yourself and because you loathe yourself, because you don't like yourself, that means that you need to pour more into that you need to pour more self-loathing into that. That's when you take a step back and open yourself up. Almost open yourself up to that feeling, recognizing it's a feeling. It's not fact. So I think that's more necessarily somatic, but dealing more with emotions, that's something that can, again, be helpful, is just recognizing that when you're feeling this intense self-loathing, that needs to be processed in a way that's going to be helpful, and also you'll find ways to process it, but it definitely doesn't need more self-loathing. You don't have to punish yourself more when you have this feeling of self-loathing, and you also don't need to be embarrassed by it. You don't need to feel so much extra shame that's already probably layered pretty heavily around yourself. Which brings me to my next thing that I want to talk about, with on the opposite, loving yourself. What does that actually look like? something that is really important, I think, with work that you do with whether it's a therapist, internally journaling, there's a lot of different resources out there for whatever your financial situation is to at least get started, is doing work around shame. And if you have a bunch of layers of shame, my belief in a God and a really loving God plays a big role in, I think, my shame kind of being melted away. But it's not always gone. And also there's a lot of tools. There's a lot of tools out there that can help peel back those layers of shame. And also just understanding and letting yourself go through, whether it's a grieving process, but going through the motions of feeling that shame. And also it kind of starts to transform. Something I've learned over the course of a couple years of OCD recovery and depression and bipolar, it's like the shame can be so heavy if you've been carrying OCD for a long time and those thoughts. And if you've been struggling mentally, that shame can be so deep and so interwoven almost. That can be a huge player as to why it's really hard to actually feel any type of love for yourself. But also paired with therapy and also in religious and faith and family support and love and practice, felt like that shame that comes with holding on to all of this like self-loathing can be totally transformed. And it's possible that one day it can just melt away. And I don't feel like that happened all at once. And I don't think that I'm done for the rest of my life. Like I'll never have that again, but I don't know if it'll ever be as bad as it was because I kind of know where to turn now. But I do think that if you have like an internal feeling that you struggle with shame, that could be a good place to start. And even if it's not like a huge layer, but it's just sometimes we just start to develop a little bit of it if we're not proactive. And also if we're not just taking time to do the things to show ourselves that we matter, that we are loved by people, that we're loved by something bigger than us, that we're loved and that we can be loving to ourselves. But I do think shame is a really big player in the game of learning to love yourself and also actually figuring out how to do that. Because I think as that automatically gets melted and brought into light, I think that automatically clears up a lot of self-loathing and a lot of those feelings, which makes it more intuitive and you can just kind of feel that love for life, for yourself. I think those really are the main things that I wanted to talk about in terms of kind of more broad ways to learn how to maybe flip that self-loathing into something else, and that shame especially into something else. Smaller things day to day that you can do. I just wanted to list those out, and I've probably said a lot of these things a lot of times, but repetition is key to learning, and also practicing obviously is key to understanding. I don't feel the need to come up with a million new things, but a couple things that I've done that really help: prioritizing time for my hobbies, learning how to learn from mistakes versus sit on them and ruminate about them for weeks. And I can do a whole episode just on learning from mistakes. Another thing is setting time either every day or even if it's just once a week, like on a Saturday or a Sunday when you don't have as much to do, to let yourself either cry it out, journal it out, let yourself have some processes that allow you to kind of reset actually, and to let things fly, to let things melt away and to restart for the week or for the day, how often you feel like you need it. And you'll figure out what works for you to help you get to that point and where you can feel like you've actually had a good reset and you're mentally in a good place. Obviously, this is an obvious one, but if you have been thinking about maybe therapy will work for me, and you really feel like that could be an answer, it's something to try, and you might as well try if it's been on your mind. Asking and telling people when you're struggling, not in a way that it's like always has to be all about you and everything you're going through, but it's if you are struggling and you do need help and support, or you just need somebody else to know, be honest about that. And that does help be honest with yourself, and it kind of goes into the unconditional acceptance. The more honest, the less shame. And this kind of goes with everything, but just getting to know yourself and reminding yourself that you are worth getting to know. It's not selfish to learn more about yourself. And it's not selfish to understand yourself. Actually, sorry, two more things. Do something hard every day. Push yourself past a comfort zone every day. Like whether it's just even a run, just running for 2 more minutes when you wanted to quit. Do something a little bit hard every single day. If not every day, you know, we can't all be perfect at that, but then then do it the next day. But when you do something hard, you do feel more proud of yourself, and it does, spike up that confidence. The last thing is a very important one, which is be attentive to who you surround yourself with and what dynamics are not helping your mental battles and what dynamics are. And if there's something that needs to be worked out with somebody, if it's your spouse, if it's with a partner, if it's with a family member, a parent, sometimes there needs to be, boundary set, but also maybe there's things that we can be more courageous about and go to couples therapy if need be to really open up and tell them and admit that you're wrong about something, admit that you've been struggling with this and you would love to feel more connected and you need to work on this together. But also if there's people in your life or a group or an environment or a setting that is definitely feeding your self-loathing and your shame, then it's not like you have to label those people as all bad, but set those boundaries and just be okay with maybe there can be distance. Yeah, I think that's all. But if anyone has anything that they wanted to share or any good ideas, I love comments on YouTube or just on the podcast. If you reply on Spotify too, I just like to hear what people think. I love seeing your guys' comments and that people are actually listening. Like I can look at the analytics and I see people listen, but I do like hearing your guys' thoughts because I sometimes get sick of my own, But before we end, let's do a Dear Abby and then we will actually end today's episode. Okay, this one is a text message. Let me mark this. There we go. Okay, this one is a text message. It says, Dear Abby, I'm curious how you handle OCD like dreams. More like nightmares, they feel like, if you even have them. They don't always occur, but when they do, I notice it's after I have an emotionally, mentally draining and charged day, or I go to bed with heaviness, especially after a heated argument with my husband. Thank you. Yes, I do have those freaking weird, horrifying OCD dreams. That feels so real, by the way. It's almost like the OCD monster in your head is like,
hey, let's do a night. Let's put on the show for tonight.
That was horrifying. That was actually a horrifying voice. I'm so sorry for that. I don't know what just happened, but that's how it feels. It's like the OCD monster part of you that scares you throughout the day. Those feelings, those thoughts. It's like let's just make her figure something out while she's dreaming. She shouldn't go into too deep of sleep. We want her to try to solve this if she can while she's sleeping. No, please. Let's not let her have a couple hours of peace. Let's make sure during her dreams when she's sleeping, she's trying to reset everything. Let's make sure she doesn't reset, and let's throw horrifying OCD nightmares to try to get her to solve something while she's sleeping. While she doesn't even have the capacity to solve or the consciousness to solve anything. But I do feel like when my husband and I got into an argument or my feelings are hurt about something, probably because I was singing too loud in my headphones, and he told me, hey, maybe don't scream while you're listening to music. We have neighbors. And I'm like, oh, so you hate me and you think my voice is horrible and I'm annoying and you don't want to be married to me anymore. When those situations happen, my feelings are hurt. I go to bed. I totally understand having the weird dreams, like the heaviness. It kind of like just gets pulled into the dream, which again creates just some of the worst dreams ever. But your question is, how do I handle them? I really don't know if I handle them that great because I don't really know how to handle them, to be honest, to answer honestly. They're just horrifying. And I wake up and then it takes me like an hour or two to get out of the weird, dreamy OCD mindset. And then I realize, oh, that was a dream and it's not real and I don't have to worry about it. But sometimes it takes a good long time for me to be like, oh, that wasn't real. Like I'm no longer in that dream state. But I think that's just like an OCD trick where it makes you feel like you're still not totally with it, but you are. But your OCD is like, well, what if that was real? And what if, I don't, just weird, how it is. I'd say the one thing that I try not to do is ruminate about it for the rest of the day as much as I can. Just let it be what it was. Like, that was weird. I'm not going to sit here and try to figure it out. And sometimes it feels like really scary. Like, actually, I genuinely wake up and I say a prayer and I'm genuinely horrified. Usually that's when I will snuggle into my husband, and usually everything is forgiven in that moment. If it was like a night that we kind of went to bed frustrated or something, immediately everything is forgiven. Everything's fine. The second I like cuddle into him, I normally feel a lot better. But when I was alone and I wasn't married, I remember I would just turn on this is so bad, actually. You know what? I'm not a great person to ask. I would turn on a show, and I would turn on something like Minecraft YouTube music, and will help me feel better as I went back to sleep. So that's what I would do in the middle of the night. I think I also went through like a spiritual, scary OCD phase where I was always scared that it was like something's in the room with me. And even when I say that, I get anxious because it's like, that's kind of just horrifying. I don't know. All around, always scary to talk about. But I think a lot of people with OCD do struggle with this, especially if they grew up in any kind of spiritual environment. Something that I used to do was ruminate about what was it. So when I feel myself ruminating, or when I wake up and I'm scared, or in the morning if I'm scared, I refuse to figure it out. And I just now am like, even if it was the most horrifying thing, and maybe not, it was real, but I know I'm going to be okay no matter what. Like, I really believe that I am going to be okay now, no matter how scared I get, no matter how scary something is, how hard something is, whatever it is. I think working to become confident that you can handle anything that is thrown at you, and even if you're scared for a second or you feel confused for a second, whatever it is, like, you will be able to handle it. That happens, I think, just with time, but also with the effort of choosing to not ruminate and try to figure out your dreams, or figure out why it's happening. How do I solve this? I've noticed that when I don't give so much attention to it, it just kind of goes away. And every once in a while, it comes back, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever, it'll come back, and what, it's going to be here for 2 nights, 3 nights. But obviously my OCD dreams sometimes do still happen. Like, literally last night was, honestly, the past 2 nights I've had OCD like dreams where I've had to wake up and cuddle into my husband. Sometimes I wake him up to be like, I'm feel scared right now, can you just like cuddle me? And then he does. My good habits are reminding myself I can handle whatever is happening. I can handle these dreams. I can handle the discomfort that happens when I wake up in the morning. And I'm not going to live my life around trying to stop these dreams. I'm not going to live my life around trying to not feel scared, because I don't think I can control that. But I trust myself that I can get through anything. Because even if like I try to figure out what it means, or I try to figure out how to stop them, or I try to figure out like what that nightmare was, what does it mean? Why do I feel like this? If I try to figure it out, I've never for sure gotten a for sure answer. It feels like you're missing a key, you're missing something. Like, if you just solved this one thing, maybe then you wouldn't ever feel scared. You wouldn't ever feel unsure. You wouldn't ever feel uncertain. But that's part of the OCD trick. Like, you will feel uncertain, and there still will be just weird nights with weird dreams. Something else maybe that might help which has helped me, is remembering that it can genuinely just be your brain that OCD is, again, always trying to, like, it's like horrible at helping, but it's trying to prevent anything horrible from happening, and it's not good at accepting reality of life. And so sometimes when you have these OCD dreams, it's genuinely trying to make you solve something. And I think just understanding what's actually going on physically, like biologically, I don't know if that's the right name to describe it, if that's the right word to describe the psychology. There we go. The psychology of what's happening. Your brain is trying to solve something while you're asleep. That might be helpful for some people to just remember and remind yourself every once in a while just like what the actual function of it is trying to do, and it might just take the fear down a little bit of being so scared as to why it's kind of crazy. And also, the reason you're trying to solve for maybe sadness that you feel, or the height of, or the emotions that might be coming from an argument or like a misunderstanding with someone that you love, is because you love them, and you don't like being disconnected, or you don't like being dysregulated, or you don't like feeling not close to someone that you love. So hopefully that helps, just remembering that you are having these scary dreams, these OCD scary dreams, because your brain is trying to solve something, and it's trying to solve something based on something that you really love and that you really care about and what matters to you. That might be helpful, making it feel a little bit lighter and less all-consuming. OCD can be crazy, though. Just think of how imaginative your brain is. Pretty incredible. And when you have OCD, you're firing on all cylinders. Not necessarily good, not necessarily super helpful, but also, if honing that imagination, putting it into something good as much as you can, and something creative and expressive. Think of the power that you hold within your brain. If only we could figure out how to really grab all of that and put it into something else. Okay, that sums it up. I hope that helped, any of that. Just know that if you can't sleep and you had a weird OCD dream and you wake up, you are not alone. And that's not to discredit or to make your experience not as hard, because it is really hard. But hopefully that brings you comfort, that when you feel like you're the only person awake and you feel maybe scared, or the only person throughout the day that feels a little bit off because of weird OCD stuff and dreams, you're not alone in that. And there's other brave OCD warriors out there fighting their battles and winning. Not all hope is lost is something else that I learned the past couple of years. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Dear Abby. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to hear me talk about anything specific, obviously send me in a Dear Abby question. That's a great way to get me to talk about something. But also, if you just have overall, you want me to do something with my podcast, or just ideas for another episode, please DM me on Instagram, or comment on my YouTube, or on Spotify. Those are the places where I'm going to actually see it. But yeah, if you want to send in a Dear Abby submission, there's a number in the description below that you can either leave a voicemail or you can leave a text message. I always need more, but you guys always do come through. But yeah, I'm always welcoming more. I try to do every single one that comes through. I'm a little bit backlogged, but I hopefully will get to all of yours. If it's been like 2 months and I didn't answer yours, you might need to send it in again, because it might just be in my archives and somehow I missed it. So I apologize for that. If you want to support the podcast, you can leave a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can also leave a comment on YouTube and like and subscribe on there as well, because I post everything on there, as well as some other things. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Dear Abby __ or Dear Abby Podcast is my podcast account. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful, beautiful, amazing weekend. I hope you guys had a good Mother's Day for all the mothers out there, or the aunts out there, or the sisters, the grandmothers, the woman. Happy Mother's Day. Happy late Mother's Day. Okay, love you guys. Bye. 눈치 보면서 들어가 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람들 시간만 지나